What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Aaron B. I know we usually do our shows on Thursday, but we got to switch it up. July 4th is going on. I know everybody wants to be with their family and everything, but we got a great show. And I'm getting out of my comfort zone on this because we usually talk Dallas Cowboy football, but we're talking Texas college football this whole month. And I had to get my guy Darrien Starling, who's host of Darrien Talks UTSA. I want to make sure I got to get a good intro for you.
Yes.
Live weekly on YouTube, deep dives, hot takes, exclusive UTSA football content, and community-driven insight. Appreciate you, Darrien, for being on the show, but how are you doing today?
Yeah, man, I'm doing good. Happy to be here, man. I appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk to you. Listen, if you guys want to ever talk to me about some Dallas Cowboys, also, I am all for it. I was a diehard Cowboy fan since I was a little boy, so I watched them every week also.
Hey, that's great news. I was going to ask you what's your NFL team, but that's good to know. We got another Dallas Cowboy fan for sure.
Yeah.
So my first question is, how'd you get into podcasting?
Yeah, man. Pretty much, man. I went to school for the most part for sports media, just in general, right? Like I got a communications degree, and my concentration was in the sports media and that sort of thing. And I've always had an interest in it. I think as a little kid, obviously growing up wanting to play ball and playing ball throughout my life, I grew up watching ESPN all the time. Like I'm sure a lot of folks who get into this atmosphere does. And I, have watched all these from your Stuart Scotts to your Chris Bermans to your now Stephen A. Smiths, your Skip Baylesses, all these guys. I've always wanted to be a media pundit and just talking about, sports and football. Football is my thing. So yeah, I once I graduated from UTSA, my football playing career was over with. Obviously I started to do stuff in the corporate world, but on the side, anytime I got time, I committed to podcasting and getting my voice out there and doing my thing in that way. So yeah, that's kind of my start.
Yeah, I like that you brought up Stuart Scott and stuff. That's he's kind of the main reason I kind of wanted to get into podcasting for sure. But speaking of college football, I did a little deep dive. I seen that you played at UTSA back in the first year it came out. So could you describe your experience there?
Yeah, man, it was a crazy time. So I was a part of what's called the original 18. We were the first signees that went, from the very beginning, and we all graduated, went through our 4 years, played 4 years at the program. I was on campus for 5 years. So yeah, it was an interesting recruiting experience because, they recruited us based off of a dream, an idea, right? A concept. And at the time, I remember I had a lot of coming out of high school. I had a lot of teammates that were Division I athletes and things like that. And I remember UTSA coming to the school, and they weren't really looking at me at the time because I went to John Tyler. So like, it's a situation where like you just gotta hope that you don't have a D1 person in your position, or you're gonna be sitting on the bench for a while. And that was my situation. And the UTSA came in, and a lot of the guys who were already committed to other schools were kind of frowning at UTSA. And I was like, yo, I didn't have any offers at the time. So I was like calling the coach, sending them my tape and that sort of thing. And they were the first ones that gave me a legitimate look. There was limited film on me, but they gave me a legitimate look. And eventually, when the time came, I had a few other offers, UTEP, Monroe, and a couple of other places stepped in and offered. But at the end of the day, it was always going to be UTSA. They were my first love. And I fell in love with the concept. Larry Coker was leading the program at the time, and he came in, and I just remember him sitting in my living room and telling me about the Miami days and telling me what his idea and vision was for UTSA and how he wanted to bring some of that culture into UTSA and make us a winning program. And I was sold. It was a huge risk, but it was a great experience to go through. And as far as my playing career, I had a great time. I was a 4-year starter. I think I started 33 out of the 38 games that I was eligible to play. And yeah, I made a little history along the way, which I'm very proud of. I caught the first interception in UTSA history. But yeah, man, I love the school, and that's why I'm covering it basically full time at this point.
So you're part of the history books. That's what you're saying right now. So in the UTSA history books, your name is right there.
Can't take that away from me.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of staying into UTSA about like if you could, I know UTSA is a young program, fairly young program compared to a lot of other programs. But if you could create a Mount Rushmore of UTSA greats or coaches, who would you feature on it?
You said greats or coaches?
Yeah.
Okay. Ooh, that's a really good question. I'm gonna go with two coaches because I think you have to go with Larry Coker, who's the one who started this whole thing. It's hard not to go with him. I think he is the reason why we were getting some of the recruits we got at that time where there was no history, there was nothing, right? And I think they did a good job with that first class. So Larry Coker is one of them. I think Jeff Traylor, our current coach right now, has already put his stamp on the program, and he already deserves it. I think he was able to come in and get us our first two conference championships, our first bowl game over the last 3 years. So he's had a ton of success, and his name is going to be etched in stone for a while at UTSA. And then the next two I'll go for players. So I think Frank Harris is one that you got to have up there. I think he is he's been Mr. UTSA for years at this particular point, right? He still is, and he's not there. The biggest thing on my the biggest topic on my podcast in general is Frank is not there anymore. But now it's like, all right, now how are we going to look after Frank is gone, right? So like, who's going to be the next quarterback? So Frank is someone that I still talk about almost on a weekly basis. I get questions and things about him. So he's one. And then if I had to go with that last spot, I would probably go with Marcus Davenport. Marcus was the first UTSA player to be drafted in the first round, which I think is huge. He was the most dominant defensive player that's come through our program, and obviously with him being drafted in the first round to the Saints, that brought so much notoriety and validity, I think, to UTSA in general, right? So if I had to go with those, if I had to put a Mount Rushmore on, I would go with those four guys.
Hey, that's a great list. I'm not gonna lie, especially just thinking of what Frank Harris did, like on and off the field, and then Marcus Davenport. I feel like almost after Marcus Davenport got drafted, it's like no, now NFL scouts are looking at UTSA
100%.
as the actual program. There's guys getting drafted each year, even if it's in the later round. It's still great quality talent at UTSA, and now it's getting noticed.
Yeah, I think that's a good point that you bring up too. Like I remember those days, like whenever we were starting to have pro days, we didn't have people like whenever I came out, dude. I think there was maybe seven teams that came to our pro day, my senior year, right? I think before that it was like two, and then it was three, and then when Marcus was there, he brought the whole country, to UTSA, and then ever since there's just been a consistent amount of coverage and eyes on UTSA from the NFL. So I think that's a good point.
So getting into the last year's season.
Mm-hmm.
What are your overall thoughts of the runners 23 season going 9-4 and getting their first bowl victory in school history at the Frisco Bowl against Marshall?
Yeah, I think it was a really good season, man. I think it was a season that we needed to have because not necessarily needed to have. I'll say this, like obviously you always want to run the tables, win conference and that sort of thing. But I also think it's a reset, right? That kind of showed that like we aren't bulletproof, right? We're not going to go through and have a perfect regular season like we did, that one conference championship year that we had, right? We're not going to be perfect or almost perfect every single time. Sometimes we're going to face some adversity. Frank Harris got banged up a little bit in the beginning of the season, and there was, we had to bring in other quarterbacks to try to come in, right? And it was in pivotal games where they had to step up and play. So it was a little rocky, but it was good to see the team get back, get kind of control of the season at a particular point in time and go on a run and finish really well. I think a lot of folks there was a lot of folks who were a little bitter about the bowl game thing, right? Because I think just in general, when you think about college football, bowls don't mean what they used to, whenever I was coming up, right? A bowl game was everything. And I think now you're starting to see guys skip the bowl game because they want to protect themselves for the NFL, or some guys want to protect themselves because they're in the transfer portal and they're trying to get out and that sort of thing. They don't want to get injured and that sort of thing. So like there was, in my opinion, a little bit of a not necessarily shrugging off, but people were sort of not as enthused about the bowl situation. And for me, I was pretty enthused about us winning our first bowl game, because it's another milestone that this school has not, or our program has not yet marked off the list. At that point, we were 0-4, or 0, and I think 0-4 in bowl games before then, right? So, you accomplished that. And to me, that's a stamp on another successful season. Maybe we didn't win conference, but there was also a new conference that we were in, right? So I think coming in, we faced some adversity. I think offensively, we brought in a new coordinator who was trying to get comfortable calling offenses, or calling the plays and the shots in this particular conference, which is also an adjustment. So I think we did pretty good. I'd be ecstatic if we went 9-4 this year, to be completely honest, considering all the changes that's coming. But I think we had an overall good season, and we had to overcome some adversity to realize the success that we did.
Yeah, because when you think of bowl games, it is feel like nobody's looking at them as much, because it's
Right.
like BCS or bust, but there's still some quality football going on in these bowl games, and these teams that are like these small in the smaller conferences, and from the SECs and schools like that. But there's schools like in y'all's conference that there's some really good football out there, but it's not getting as much notoriety as the other ones. But if you did a deep dive, you're gonna watch some good quality football.
Oh,
And
100%.
yeah, I think eventually UTSA is going to get more notoriety as a football team, because, like you said, we were talking about like guys that y'all only had like a couple of guys going to the pro days. Now you got most of all the school, I mean, all the NFL teams looking at y'all.
Yeah.
But my next question is, and we're going to go kind of into the schedule. Let me put it up right here. So y'all start the schedule at Kennesaw State. But what's one game that you got your eye on? Is it the rivalry up north in San Marcos, or is it the Texas game, or what's that game that you got your eye on that you can't wait to watch?
Yeah, I'd probably say it's the Texas State game, man. That's the one where it's going to be a huge it's going to be a huge indication of where our season's going to go, in my opinion. And the reason I say that is because I think Texas State, listen, if we, short of just us having bragging rights and us all just dominating them every time we play, I think that this season is probably it's going to be their best shot at beating us, compared to any other season in the past, right? So it's going to be a big deal. That game is going to be packed out. There's not going to be an empty seat at that game, and it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot of high pressure. The trash talk has already started. But then you also look at where Texas State is, right? They finally turned the corner with their coach, GJ Kinney, last year, and he's going to come. He's reloading this year. They had a really good summer in terms of bringing in kids from the transfer portal. They got the Sun Belt Conference Player of the Year and Jordan McLeod coming in. That's going to be leading their offense on it from a quarterback perspective. They're returning some really good players as well. So they have a good football team. I talk crap about Texas State all the time, anytime they're brought up. But if I'm calling a spade and being completely objective, I think that game is going to be a big game. To me, it's also going to be the first, and I'm not trying to sleep on Kennesaw State, but Kennesaw State, they had a rough game. I mean, they had a rough year last year. And they're coming into the Alamo Dome, not an easy place to play. So I do expect UTSA to have a showcase game against them, but that Texas State game is going to be a real game. Our new quarterback in that particular situation is going to be under a lot of pressure in that game, a lot of pressure to perform, and things like that. And a bad performance there, you never know how that can make a coach, how they can make decisions on who's going to be the starter for the next game and that sort of thing, right? So I think it's a really important game. And then I think another reason it's important is because that game is a very winnable game for us. And when you look at that Texas game, I'm not super optimistic about our chances of winning. So what you don't want is to start. That can be the difference between us starting 1-2 and 2-1. And whenever you think about momentum and heading into conference and stuff like that, I think that Texas State game has a lot of importance in terms of what our season is going to look like. So that's the one that I'm most geared up for.
Yeah, I'm definitely want to watch that game. That was like the main one that caught my eye.
Yeah.
Is there what about the? I know y'all had it was a tough loss against Army last year. Is that kind of like another one like that you got your eyes on for this year?
Yeah, so there's the Army one for me. It's something I've talked about a ton on my podcast, man. The Army one is tough because they're like our kryptonite. We don't play Army well, just historically. Like I think we're 1-2 against them. And even I think I think we beat them once. I think the one we won, it was kind of touch and go, but they're a physical football team who run the football quite often. And I think we're a team that's set up for our conference, which is more of a spread conference, right? So we have personnel that are better against that. And when you look at Army and what they do, up front with their linemen and how physical they are, they like to get downhill with the big backs and things like that. We've struggled against that. So that's one. And I hate that it's the last game of the season. But yeah, that one. And I'll tell you another one to look out for is that game against Memphis. Memphis is coming to San Antonio in November. That's going to be a big game. I'll definitely be in the house for that one. Memphis is coming into this year with a lot of good recruits that had a really good summer in terms of bringing guys in. So that Memphis game is one to look out for as well.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun schedule y'all have. There's gonna be some tough games, but I still see y'all having a winnable season.
Of course.
Yeah. So in a range, where do you see the UTSA this year?
So it's the thing. I think the odds got us at like 7.5. I'll take the over on that. I think we'll win. I think we'll be around. I'm hoping. I expect us to win anywhere from 7 to 9 games.
Okay.
I know those are lofty expectations. Well, I don't know if they're lofty considering what we are, but I trust Coach Traylor, right? And I think a lot of why I am trying to not overshoot anything, even though 7 to 9 games would say that we had a really, really successful season. But what I'll say is I think that whatever product that Coach Traylor puts out on the field is going to be a product that's going to be a winning thing, right? So I would say 7 to 9 games. I think we'll be around there somewhere.
Yeah, that's definitely a good range for this team. You already kind of dived in a little bit with some of the talking about recruits. Y'all have 15 transfers coming in. Y'all have some freshmen coming in as well. So when it comes to some of the transfers, which one do you think will make like an immediate impact, even if it's on special teams or maybe or coming off of the bench or something like that?
Yeah, so there's one guy that I have that I sort of had circled because he showed a lot in the spring game, but a guy named JJ Sparkman, he's a transfer from, I believe he came in from Texas Tech. Where's J? Yeah, JJ Spark. Yeah, he came in from Texas Tech. Seen him play I seen him play in the spring game. That dude's talented, man. That dude's talented. He's gonna come in. I think he's gonna be a starter at the receiver position. We got to reload there. I think he's gonna be a name that pops off the screen quite a bit. So I'm expecting big things out of him. Also, cornerback Denver Harris. He's coming in from LSU. And I think before that he was at Texas A&M. He was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school, 4-star recruit as a 4-star as a transfer. Got into some off the field troubles or whatever. But he's landed at UTSA, and I've heard a lot of good things about what he's going to be able to bring to the team and things like that. So those are probably the main two guys. And then I just think in general, our defensive linemen that we got also, those guys are going to be probably guys that are going to be able to get out to the passer and things like that. So yeah, I think there's a few guys on our team that's going to come in and put in a shift, but those will be the two names that I'm pretty sure are going to start next season.
Okay, I like that. Is there any freshmen that when you watch the tape, you're like, okay, maybe next year this guy's gonna make make an impact on this team?
Yeah. There's one in particular that I don't know of how much he's going to play, but Will Henderson. And he might be on the. I think is he on this list here? But Will Henderson, he is he's a player who. Yeah, I think he's from Gilmer. So he's a running back. He was the top guy from a track standpoint. He won track. That dude ran a 10-100. So he can roll. He was incredible as a high school football player. Anytime you have, I mean, you know this, anytime you have a person or a player with that type of speed, they're going to find some way to get the ball in his hands. I don't care how old he is. When you got a guy rolling like that, you're either going to put him on punt return, kick return, you're going to have him on a jet sweep, something to get him into some space. So he's a guy that I don't know how much he'll play as a freshman, but I think we'd be crazy to put that to not utilize that speed somewhere on the field somewhere.
Oh yeah, they're gonna figure out a way to put him out there. Like you said, if it's even in a couple of plays here and there throughout the season, he's gonna get some type of PT out there.
100%.
Yeah. So the next thing I want, kind of when it comes to the quarterback situation, after a great career, Frank Harris graduated, and now you got Owen McCown, you got Eddie Lee Marburg, and then you got a recent transfer, Demetrius Davis. Who do you think has the best opportunity to be QB1?
Yeah, QB1 from everything I'm hearing is probably going to be Owen McCown. I don't think I'm breaking any news saying that, but I talked about it a little bit on my podcast last week. Yeah, I'm hearing Owen McCown is going to be the guy. He's the guy who came in and won the bowl game for us, and you know he has some quarterback pedigree and stuff with his father, being Josh McCown and things like that. So yeah, I think he's going to be the guy, but you just never know, man. There's a lot of rumors circulating on like, you know, who the battle actually is. Is it Eddie Lee Marburger? Is it Demetrius Davis? Who's going to be QB2? Because you know how it is. Anytime you come into a season where you're trying out a new quarterback, that quarterback, he's just as good as his last game until he puts enough games together for a coach to say, okay, now that's my guy, right? So it's the one reason I worry about the Texas State game. What if things go okay in the Kennesaw State game, and Texas State they go crazy, right? And then he has to backdoor and play against Texas, and they go crazy, right? We could be looking at a new quarterback come game 4. So I hope that does not happen. I hope whoever they select, which I think will be Owen McCown, comes in and does a good job and that sort of thing. But I'm hearing it's Owen McCown. But he's a talented guy. He's a versatile quarterback that can extend plays and he can get outside the pocket a little bit. I think in terms of player profile, you look at Eddie Lee Marburger, who speculated to be the number 2, possibly number 3, or whatever the case he may be at this point in time. But I think he has special arm talent. So to me, I look at it as if Owen McCown is beating that guy out for the start job, I think we're in a good spot because that guy's uber talented. So and then Demetrius Davis, I just think it's difficult for somebody to come in with that limited amount of time to grasp the offense, get command of the huddle, get command of the playbook, and then actually go out and execute early in the season. So I think Owen McCown is going to be our guy.
And from what you've seen last year, you could see that the talent there, the pedigree's there, because he got, like you said, his dad played in the league and Luke McCown played in the league. And it just feel like Josh and Luke were just playing in the league just a couple of years ago.
Right.
Kind of makes you feel kind of old knowing that his sons.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm not going to show my age, but I was like, I remember Josh McCown playing.
So do I.
But going into our next thing is y'all lost Trey Moore last year. He had a stellar season. But who do you believe on this roster could not actually replace him, but maybe have a similar production or impact on this team? Who do you think that guy could be?
Yeah, the guy that's got that responsibility is a guy by the name of Jamori Robinson. He is a talented guy. He had some pretty good numbers last year, but I think when you look at his measurements, I think he's like 6'6", 245. He has the athletic ability, and I think he has the motor to be able to not necessarily replace that or break the record, but a lot of folks are expecting big things out of him coming into this season. And I think he's going to be in a prime position to come in and make a big name for himself. So UTSA has historically had really, really good defensive linemen. Obviously, Trey Moore, you think about Marcus Davenport. The list goes on. There's a lot of good guys, but you got a lot. We have a very deep defensive line. So I say Jamori Robinson, but our D line room is incredible. There's a lot of guys that's going to pop off the screen. So they'll replace his production by committee, but I think Jamori Robinson will probably has a chance to be the leading producer on the front.
Yeah, I definitely think he could be that guy. And when it comes to y'all defense line, you always have a really stout defensive line in general. So before our next question is, I'm all into the underrated guys. So who's that unsung hero on the UTSA roster that nobody really talks about but deserves the recognition?
Yeah, that's a really good question. That's a good question. You know what? Oh, I'll say I'm gonna go with Jamal Liggin. He's a linebacker he's a veteran linebacker. And I'm a little biased because he's from my hometown. He's from Tyler, Texas as well. But the reason I'll say that though is because he's someone who you know what you're going to get from him. You just know what you're going to get, and because of his position and like how he operates, he doesn't always get, in my opinion, he led UTSA in tackles last year. But the biggest name, that comes from our season last year is a Trey Moore, and not that anything's wrong with that, but Trey Moore and Cam Alexander, they were excellent players for UTSA, but this guy was too. And he sometimes get overshadowed from a star level standpoint, I think, because there are other good players on the defense and their plays are a lot more flashy because one guy his job is to sack the quarterback. The other guy's his job to catch interceptions and make, big one-on-one stops at the cornerback position. But, I think, Jamal Liggin he started he was a freshman. He was a Conference USA all freshman team selection. He was honorable mention his sophomore year from a all conference standpoint. And then last year he was all conference as well. So I just think he's a guy who is he plays the inside linebacker. He's doing a lot of that dirty work in there. And he's a guy who's going to pop up a lot. He may not get all the big praise, but I think he's a really, really good and important player for UTSA.
Yeah, when it comes to the blue collar work of football, they don't really get the notoriety like the sacks or the interceptions. Yep. But like those tackles for loss makes a big impact on the team, just making those little short stops. But that's definitely a good one. I got two more questions for you. Mm-hmm. So we're going to the NFL draft. There's a lot of NFL draft junkies are like in the I call it couch scouts. I'm one of them. It's like, what are a couple of UTSA players that a lot of us should keep an eye on when it comes to the
that's a good question. I'd say Jamori Robinson. Like I said, he's probably the one that you'll see. He's probably one that if he has a big year, NFL scouts are going to be knocking on his door. I think Kendrick Blackshire, he's coming in from Texas. If he comes in and he does well, I think he'll have an opportunity because he's a physical freak. You look at it, you got to always look at a guy like a Denver Harris, right? Just because of what his talent level what has been and what the expectations that were originally heaped up on him. You got to look at a guy like that who could have an opportunity. In the secondary, there's just so many unknowns, because we made so many moves that I think a lot of the guys there, we got a lot of transfers coming in the secondary. So I think a lot of the guys there can make an impact. I will say on the offensive side of the ball, it's a long shot for JT Clark because of his really bad knee injury that put him out for basically 2 seasons or a season and a half. But NFL folks were already on his radar, or he was on their radar before the injury. I'll say when he returns this season, if he's even 70 to 80% of what he was before, I think NFL scouts, you gotta look at him. You gotta look at him. Like I don't necessarily know if he gets drafted, but he's too good at 50-50 balls and route running and being able to make big catches downfield. He's too good to ignore. He has a really special talent, but we got to see what he looks like this season if he's recovered, if he's fully recovered from that injury and he doesn't look like he's hobbled, right? So we'll have to see.
Yeah, if he even get, like you're saying, if he's like at a 75% or something like that, he's got to at least get a camp invite or something like
Right.
to an NFL team. But my last question is, we're talking about road trips. So you go into a UTSA game and you trying to get your mind right to watch this game. Who are 3 artists you're going to be featured on your game day road trip playlist?
Ooh,
I
that's a really good question. Okay. All right. So for me, I would probably go. I mean, you can't go wrong with Boosie.
Let's go.
You can't go wrong with Boosie. Even some of the stuff now, but like some of the old stuff. I'm just thinking about stuff I was listening to back in the day that was getting me live. And I know it's a road trip, but I like to. I don't know. I like to feel the same energy as the players if I'm listening to some of the music getting ready for the game. But I'd say some Boosie. I like blues too, man. I'll probably throw in some Johnny Taylor on the way as well.
Okay.
And then for my last one, I would probably can't go wrong with. Probably can't. I'll stay away from Drake. You probably can't go wrong with a little Lil Wayne or something, man. Just to get it in. I know I went with 2 Louisiana artists, but there you go.
Hey, we talking about 2008 Lil Wayne, that type of
Yeah.
Oh, you talking about mixtape Wayne?
Yeah, I'm talking about mixtape Wayne from 06 to like 2012, that era. Like that's the go crazy era from Wayne right there. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect the Johnny Taylor one. I know my dad's gonna check out this show. He's gonna love that answer for sure.
Yeah, man. Johnny Taylor, that's my guy.
Yes, sir.
And the little Sir Charles, man.
Absolutely. So, hey, I appreciate you, bro, for being on the show. Good to know that you're a Dallas Cowboy fan. So we definitely got to have you on one of these shows in the near future.
Yeah, hit me up.
Yeah, for sure. But where can they check out your YouTube channel or anything you got going on as well?
Yeah, of course, man. You can check me out on YouTube at youtube.com/@Darrien Starling, just my first and last name. I cover UTSA primarily on there, but I'm gonna dip my toe into a few more things as the year progresses. And then also on Twitter, catch me on Twitter at Darrien_UTSA. I'm trying to build a community there. So if any of you guys are UTSA fans, come join. We talk about all the nitty gritty stuff behind the scenes, all the good stuff. So check me out there, man. You can find me there.
Yeah, definitely follow the show. I got it in the description box. I need to definitely check out it. I checked out his content. You got some great quality stuff out there. Even if you're not a UTSA fan, you can learn a little bit something about some UTSA football for 100%. Sure.
100%.
Yes, sir. Hey, this has been Tacos and Touchdown Live. We'll be back Tuesday. We got a special guest for A&M football. So it's a be an interesting show. I'm just gonna leave it at that. But y'all have a good one. Peace.